Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Now that the Bad Batch first season is over, I'd like to start doing some what-if scenarios involving them. The thing that really kicks off Clone Force 99's story is the event that changes many people's lives, Order 66. This was a secret plot created by the Sith to destroy the Jedi in one fell swoop. After the Jedi cornered the Chancellor in his office and tried to carry out a Jedi coup against him, Palpatine would issue Order 66 in reaction. This was an executive order which was planted in each one of the clones' heads by an inhibitor chip, and it was designed to prevent the Jedi from doing exactly what they tried to do, which was forcibly take control of the Republic. This was an order to execute the Jedi, which was implanted in every clone trooper's head by an inhibitor chip. This order was designed to keep the Jedi in check in case they did something very rash, like try to overthrow a democratically elected official like Chancellor Palpatine. Now, the Bad Batch were heavily mutated clones that were specially modified by Kaminoan scientist Nala Se. A side effect of those modifications meant that their inhibitor chips do not properly function. And so only Clone Force 99 sniper Crosshair follows Order 66. And later on, their heavy weapons specialist Wrecker suffers multiple head injuries, which also triggers the chip. But what if Clone Force 99 stayed loyal to the Republic and later on the Empire from the very beginning? What if they successfully carried out Order 66 and were obedient to all of the following orders given to them? Well, first of all, if Hunter and his team had actually been doing their job, Caleb Doom, aka Kanan Jarrus, would have most likely died. As skilled as Padawan would become, at the time he was still quite young and would not have survived a contest against a commando unit like Clone Force 99. In Legends, after Order 66, regular clone commando units were usually tasked with hunting down rogue Jedi that had survived the initial purge. The consequences of killing Caleb Doom would be pretty massive, because he would later link up with the daughter of Twilight Resistance fighter Cham Syndulla, Hera Syndulla, and her Spectres. He would also begin training the young Force-sensitive known as Ezra Bridger. Caleb Doom ultimately gives his life defending the individuals in Spectre, but not before giving Hera Syndulla a child. If it weren't for Caleb's sacrifices, the rebel resistance on Lothal most likely would have failed on their mission, and Grand Admiral Thrawn would not have been whisked away to the Outer Rim by some space whales. You guys probably all already know my opinion on Thrawn. I think he's one of the best commanders the galaxy has ever seen. He would have posed a serious threat to the rebellion after squashing the resistance on Lothal. The Battle of Lothal actually occurs before the Battle of Yavin and the Battle of Hoth, and had Thrawn been available during the Galactic Civil War for the Emperor to use, it's very likely that he would have destroyed the main rebel group and eliminated their ability to fight back. Thrawn also represented a complete change in Imperial naval philosophy. With individuals like Tarkin gone after the destruction of the Death Star, Thrawn's own successes could have created changes to the Tarkin doctrine, instead of instilling fear into the hearts of your enemies. Thrawn's more strategic approach and understanding the culture and needs of various groups could create more stability and effective peacekeeping strategies. Also, Thrawn was a huge critic of the flawed Death Star program and instead wanted to improve the basic TIE fighter into something that could match the Rebel snub fighters. This, of course, would turn into the TIE Defender program, which was one of the most successful starfighters fielded by the Empire. Thrawn's thoughtfulness and rationale and love of stability would have been really good for Emperor Palpatine and the entire galaxy as a whole. Also, had Clone Force 99 obeyed Order 66, Crosshair would have never needed to file a report against his teammates for not executing Order 66. It's actually kind of a dick move on Crosshair's part to do this. He doesn't actually witness Hunter letting Caleb go, he just doesn't believe in Hunter's story, in which he states that he shot the Jedi Padawan with a stun round when he was attempting to jump over a big chasm. Crosshair thinks that he's being a good and loyal soldier by reporting his fellow teammates, but y'all know that snitches get stitches. Plus, this occurred at a very bad time for the Clone Trooper program. You see, Wilhuff Tarkin had arrived on Kamino to reassess the Clone Trooper program. Emperor Palpatine wanted to do an audit on the Clone Troopers and see if they were financially and strategically viable for protecting the Empire. To make matters worse, Wilhuff Tarkin wasn't exactly a huge fan of the clones in the first place. He had fought alongside them during the Clone Wars. Actually, Echo had been a part of the team that rescued Tarkin from the Citadel prison in the first place. When Tarkin arrives on Kamino, he first observes Clone Force 99 in the cafeteria as they fought off several regular clones in a lunchroom scuffle. While Tarkin might not have high opinions of the clone troopers and will want to end the program, he is quite curious about Bad Batch's capabilities. Tarkin requests that Clone Force 99 be put through a series of training tests so that he can carefully observe them in combat. The squad easily beats the first regular simulation that was set up for them, but then Tarkin has them go through a second simulation in which the robots are armed with live munitions, and all the clones have are non-lethal weapons. This creates some issues, but ultimately the Bad Batch come together and prevail. Now, in the original timeline, when Clone Force 99 is going through these simulations, Tarkin already knows that Hunter has betrayed the Empire because of Crosshair's report. But I think regardless, even if Crosshair doesn't send that report and Hunter proves to be loyal by executing Kanan Jarrus, Tarkin still would have put them through this kind of exercise just to see what they had in them. Also, I gotta say, it is a Tarkin family tradition to be tested and put into extremely dangerous situations where you have very, very small chances of surviving. Some might call it abuse. Some might say it's a good way to kind of like weed out weakness in your bloodline. What a family. But what about the next test that Tarkin runs on them? You know, the one where he sends the Bad Batch after Saw Gerrera to test if they are loyal? If Clone Force 99 has already executed Order 66, would they still be sent on this mission? Well, for one, Tarkin, in his own twisted way, probably can appreciate how talented and skilled Clone Force 99 is. He definitely is impressed by their combat abilities and unpredictability. Tarkin believes in survival of the fittest, so he'll have developed some respect for the Bad Batch, creatively finding a solution to win. Which is most likely why he'll probably want to see more and send them on that mission to pacify Saw Gerrera anyway. They basically are the best option available at the time, and Tarkin won't have to lie to them in this scenario and tell them that they're fighting Separatist droids. He'll probably brief them about Saw Gerrera instead. When the Bad Batch are deployed to Onderon, they come up to Saw Gerrera's camp. The only thing their scanners seem to pick up there are organic bodies. This causes the unit to pause before engaging because Tarkin had only mentioned droids. Had they known they were dealing with the extremely dangerous and radical Saw Gerrera and his partisans, they most likely would have engaged immediately. They definitely wouldn't have sat around discussing things until Saw Gerrera's perimeter guards became aware of their presence and surrounded them. Crosshair even had an old grandma terrorist in his crosshair and was ready to start popping off. Had the group started off with the right mindset and also right intel, they most likely would have controlled the firefight from the very beginning. Perhaps Crosshair could have even eliminated Saw Gerrera with a lucky shot. As we all know from the excellent Rogue One film, after escaping Onderon, Saw Gerrera would become a huge thorn in the side of the Empire. His methods were so brutal, though, that the Alliance to restore the Republic would eventually distance themselves away from him and his men. If Saw Gerrera had died, most likely his partisans would have disbanded and gone back to, looting and pillaging. He also wouldn't have been able to help get Galen Erso's message to Jyn Erso, which could have stopped the rebel effort to steal the Death Star's plan. Which means the entire Battle of Yavin could have went poorly for the rebels and ended the war. And so the consequences of the Bad Batch letting Gerrera go are massive. But then again, we're not even sure if the Bad Batch would have been successful in capturing the famous guerrilla fighter. Either way, Bad Batch most likely would have survived their mission and they would have done a lot of damage to the partisans. This would have been met by Tarkin's approval. The unit never would have been jailed, Crosshair would have never been split up, and the clones would have never taken Omega from Kamino. This is where things get really interesting, because the Bad Batch's success in these missions would mean two things. First, it shows Tarkin that clones like them were not only very skilled on the battlefield, they were also loyal and could be trusted with sensitive operations. They didn't let their personal morals and ethics get in the way of the mission. Which, let's be honest, would have happened with a lot of civilian soldiers. On the other hand, the Kaminoans had a serious problem with the degradation of the original Fett DNA. After Jango lost his head to Mace Windu, the Kaminoans would have just been copying his DNA over and over again, to the point where they were going to have some serious issues with the quality of the genetic material. Prime Minister Lama Su believes that Nala Se's original mutated clones are the key to creating a new line of superior clones. These would be super clones whose abilities were so superior to the regular clones that the massive cost they would probably require would be justified. And now with Clone Force 99 back at base, the Kaminoans can begin to prepare a rollout of more prototype models. With someone as powerful as Tarkin being impressed by the program, it's very likely that Emperor Palpatine would at least allow a test trial version of this new clone system. Politics and financial support are really important, and even in the Empire, you have programs like the Death Star to compete against. And if you take a look at the Death Star program, without Tarkin, it might have never gotten the political and economic support that it needed to finish the job. If the Super Clone program was started, it would temporarily take away resources and attention from Admiral Rampart's alternative solution, Operation War Mantle. This basically was the prototype Stormtrooper program and used regular, imperfect citizens as soldiers instead of clones. So yeah, I mean, this kind of follows my Crosshair is Right video very well. If Clone Force 99 made some very morally inappropriate decisions like shooting a bunch of refugees, they might have created some more long-term stability and jobs for their fellow clone brothers in the long run. This is why Crosshair's kind of right, Hunter. You never do see the bigger picture. Now, if you guys really like this video and it does well, maybe we could do like a part 2, or we can just mess around with more what ifs. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys want to see. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.